It was the third year of my mechanical engineering degree, a degree built around building things and doing things hands on. But there I was sitting, going through my online lectures and slides, trying to consume all these complex concepts. I remember sitting there and thinking, man, none of this is going in my head. And it wasn't really because I wasn't paying attention, but it was more of just this feeling of something being off. Unlike some people I know, growing up, I've always had only one ambition, and that was to become an engineer. As a kid, I was always very interested in cars, and growing up, it just kind of evolved into trying to figure out how they worked. Like, why does the car go forward when I press a pedal? And I was always curious in how machines worked and always questioned why. And because of that, I thought the best career was to be an engineer. So the plan was very simple: get good grades, try and get into a good university, graduate with an engineering degree, land an engineering job where I can work with cars. Simple, right? Well, things don't always go as you plan. Fast forward to 2020. I was in my third year of the engineering degree and a global event hit. As a result of that, all my lectures were converted to online lectures and we could not access the lab anymore because we were on a lockdown. At first it was like, whoa, get to stay home, we get to, do other things, blah blah blah. A few months in, I realized that I was struggling. And I thought about why I was struggling, and honestly it really boiled down to not having practical sessions to understand the difficult concepts. So in my degree, the third year was actually considered to be the hardest year among all the 4 years because most of our difficult subjects were in the third year. And just so happened, COVID happened during my third year of the degree. So what happened was that I was being dumped all these complex concepts through online lectures and slides, but I had no way to sort of visualize how these work in real life because we had no lab sessions. I couldn't do things hands-on. That lack of hands-on work really got to me, I think, because eventually I realized I just lost passion for engineering. I didn't have that same curiosity and interest I had back in the first 2 years. And if I really thought about it, it wasn't just this overnight switch because I had that feeling of something is off since the start of the year. I just never understood why, but I guess towards the end of the year I did. But given that I was already towards the end of the year, I told myself, okay, I'll just push through the third year, make sure I don't feel anything. And maybe the fourth year will be better because I'll have my final year project and it'll be something I can do hands-on. Spoiler alert, that was not what happened. So fourth year came around, but COVID was still here and it was still serious enough that we could not go back to the university. So basically my university decided that they will give us some options for projects, and this was like something we could do with our computers at home. A lot of it were like simulation projects, design projects, and even some electronics project because the components were small enough that we could still pass around. But there were also some projects that were out of the scope of engineering, and one of it was this machine learning project. And that really piqued my interest, and I realized that I wasn't that curious about something for the past year. Like, I forgot how that felt. And at that time, I was aware of the term machine learning. I sort of knew what it was, but I've never had any experience working with it. I had barely done any coding in my course. I was not aware of any machine learning concepts, frameworks. But I told myself, after a year of just doing things with no passion, no interest, this was something I finally had some curiosity in. Why not just try? So I took the leap of faith and chose that project. It was difficult at first. I had to learn a bit of coding, I had to learn some concepts, but eventually I pulled through and actually got some decent results from that project. And I told myself, damn, it was actually pretty fun. And eventually I completed the fourth year and successfully graduated with the degree. But then came the decision time. I had to choose between following my initial plan of trying to get an engineering job, although I had already lost passion for it, or just pivot to data science and analytics because I have a newfound passion for it. And after discussing it with family and friends and, having some time to think about it, I decided to pivot. Now, I'm very grateful that the people around me supported my decision because I practically said, well, I spent 4 years and I'm not going to do anything about it. But yeah, I'm grateful for that. It wasn't an easy decision because obviously I had some guilt of, using up resources to do these 4 years of degree that I just said I'm not going to use it. But I really told myself that maybe if I don't make this pivot now, I will regret it in the future, because if I don't, I'll be doing something I no longer had passion for. So I took the leap, and I needed some credentials to land a job because I couldn't really look for data science or data analytics job with an engineering degree. So I enrolled for a master's in data science and business analytics and completed that. It was a 1-year program. So after I was done with that, fast forward to today, I'm now working in the data analytics space for a little over 2 years now. The funny thing is that my current official role is actually analytics engineer, which is pretty ironic because I was trying to go away from engineering and somehow the term is still in my role. But if I really think about it, that 4 years I spent wasn't completely wasted, because what engineering essentially teaches you is how to solve problems, how to approach them systematically, how to break down complex problems into smaller ones. And honestly, that's what I'm doing in my job currently, just that I'm using data to solve instead of thermodynamics or fluid dynamics, right? So I would say it wasn't completely wasted. And I guess the huge key takeaway from this is that I followed my instincts and I have no regrets. So the one key message I would give y'all is that if you're on the fence about something, just trust your gut, because deep down you probably already know what you want to do. That's my story of how I spent 4 years on a degree just to not use it. If you've stayed up to this point, thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one. Peace.